Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining back in with us. You are in Hurdlers of Adversity, Inspirers and Maximizers of Pivotal Moments. So we had a schedule shift. So I thank you for sticking around, and hopefully that you didn't it didn't interrupt you too much, because we do have a great guest that's on today, and I want to make sure that we give her the props and the propers. So if you're out there and you have a person that you want, that you're having dinner with, you want to kind of get on, we want you to share this out so that other people can see, and we want them to know what's going on, because we have, like I said, a fantastic show coming on today. Our business is right around, what we do is we help business professionals hurdle their adversity. We help them maximize their moments, but it's really about hurdling adversity, amputating the fear that's behind that, embracing this new normal mindset in order to win the medals that are in their lives. And we've been rocking all week long. I'm just like about to fall off the chair right now, because if you've been with me, like some of you have been with me, it's been just off the charts, just crazy. So today I did a live show. So we had a whole production for 90 minutes, and it was just wonderful. I got to thank the whole team for putting that together. And then yesterday, I actually did a live event. I was actually in a building. Could you believe that? So we're all socially distanced out there and had a great conversation, really pushed into some hardcore issues. What we always do. We don't back away from them. We always push in. And then before that, then I had a virtual event with MPI, the Meetings Professional Industry, and we had another great, like 400 people on the virtual. That was absolutely phenomenal, and some of those folks came over for the live that we did today as well. So we have a lot that's going on. We're going to get to it. We're not going to stay on very long this evening as far as the introductions today, but I do want to introduce you, if you haven't been introduced to me, of what I'm here and what I do, and how we got this show going. So hello, Facebook user. Thank you for coming in. I appreciate that. Hello. I'll shout you out there. I don't know where you're coming in from. Probably you got to be coming from the Amputee Fear Group. So thank you. So we appreciate that. Real quick, at 5:29 in the afternoon, I was one of the world's fastest hurdlers on May 17th, 1994. At 5:30, I would never run another hurdle in my life. So I was on my way to Olympic trials. I was about to, make the Olympic team. I was on my way to officer candidate school. I was in the United States Army, and all these, I had my life just all the way planned out. And then at 5:30, I misstepped a hurdle. I dislocated my left knee. I severed the artery behind the kneecap, and 7 short days later, I had an elective surgery to have an amputation. And I went down this kind of downward spiral, and I was really contemplating, what's my identity now? Am I still a husband to my father? Will she still stay with me? Will my son still value me and see me as his father? Will I still have a job in the United States Army? Can I support my family? I mean, my Olympic dreams are totally gone. They're totally over. And so in that mindset, my wife comes over, Alice. She says, "You know what, John, we're going to get through this together. This is just our new normal." And that's where this whole platform began and baselined, and we started elevating from there. So we don't look at the new normal as most people use it, as a term of destination. It's not when I get to the new normal, or I can't wait till we get back to the normal. No, it's the new normal is always moving forward. It's something that can't really be attained, because the ceiling becomes the floor. It's only a plateau by which we grow, and so we're always sharing in that type of context, because we can't stay stagnant. If we stay stagnant, we freak out when things like COVID hit, and we have to be able to elevate and move in those spaces. So that's what we're doing. So if you're on right now, I want to you put in the chat box where you watching the live stream from. Where are you watching it from? I want to know. And what channel are you watching on? Is it Facebook? Is it on LinkedIn Live? Is it on YouTube? Where are you coming in, and where are you watching the stream from? So I'll just let you give a few moments there to put them in the chat. I'll look for it a little bit later. We want to see your engagement. We want you to ask questions, because we have, like I said, just a phenomenal guest on today. Today also is International Disability Awareness Day. And so for the things that I do out there in the disability community, so we just wanted to say congratulations, what a great day, and just make sure that you are kind of expanding people with disabilities. As the population is growing around the world, aging populations, more and more people are finding themselves becoming a part of this community. We have this New York in the house. All right, via Facebook. Yep. Thank you very much, New York in the house. So at the UN has this rights on the Convention of People with Disabilities. It's a ratification that the United States has not done as of this point. There's a lot of reasons around why or why not. But what it's saying is they kind of took the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, and said, okay, this is pretty good. Let's put this around the world so that people with disabilities have access and value and worth. Because a lot of places around the world, it's taboo to have a disability. You are cursed to have a disability, or people want to heal you from their disability. All these things that go on, instead of saying, yeah, it's all right. I am who I am. I'm comfortable who I am, and I don't need to operate in a different environment. So I as an amputee identify as a male man with a disability, as an amputee, and I can no more disassociate myself from being an amputee than I can being an African American man. So that's what I'm saying. We all just kind of just be okay with who we are, and that's fine. So I'm looking right now. We got another user on saying hello. So thank you very much for that. All right. So let's get into this today, because we do have a phenomenal guest, and I don't want to waste any more time with this, because she is just phenomenal. She is an educator. She's an author. She's a filmmaker. She is the founder of School Dismissed LLC, a company that bridges education, film, and law. She has 10 years of elementary teaching experience and has taught across the United States and abroad. She was the host of Teacher Talks on Tribe Family Channel for 3 seasons. In 2018, she resigned from the teaching profession, and wrote a book entitled School Dismissed. School's out for summer. And as she turned, she flipped it. She went from school teacher into this filmmaker profession. Fascinating. She uses her law degree to inform her educational related films. She seeks to expose people to the realities that occur inside schools through film. And she is currently directing and producing a documentary entitled Robbed: A Mother's Peril, the Kelly Williams Bowler story. We're going to get into that for sure, because you're not going to believe it. Well, no, you know what? You probably will in this age right now. So people are not starting to be shocked by these things, because we see in our society that there are disparities between different groups of people. So we are going to definitely get into that. So she's an open book, and we're going to have this conversation with her today. So please welcome to the show the one, the only, Stacie McClam. Thank you so much for being on, Stace.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I wanted to kind of just rock into these questions right now, because you have a very interesting background, and it's kind of this one going from this educator to filmmaker, but you're telling these stories that are so gripping of things that you're kind of pulling the curtains behind. So, what was it that caused you to leave the to leave the teaching profession and go into the filmmaking industry?
Yes, so it's definitely all of my years teaching. I've taught, as you stated, across the United States, and so I know that this problem exists in schools, of there being inequalities. Of course, we know that, but I don't feel that people who are not in the schools necessarily, even some parents don't realize the extreme nature of some of these disparities. And I think people actually have to see it. And so being in schools, even with great administration and fabulous teachers, sometimes there are systemic issues that are outside of well-meaning people's intentions, and they can't get the certain resources that they may need. And it's very frustrating. It can be very frustrating for teachers who want to do well, want students to be successful. And we do our best, most of us, and we really want to help the kids. But many kids, of course, come with their own traumas, and sometimes they are re-traumatized at schools. And then teachers also become traumatized at schools. And so there's no help for teachers or students many times in most urban districts.
So what are some of those things? I mean, what are some of the things that the gaps are not filled, and teachers are struggling with, and then the households, and what creeps into the school that says this might be a problem, this might be what's the behind that of what you're saying?
hmm I think there's a lot of mental health issues
Mm,
that are undiagnosed
mm,
with children, with families, and it's not a bad thing. It's something that you need mental health professionals to
mhm,
support with. And I feel that in certain school districts with more money, they have those services for students. But oftentimes in urban schools, there's a lot of neglect. And so you just don't get the resources. It just is what it is. It's people become immune to how the schools function in these communities. It's just the way it is. Constant fights um, all day long. Certain things not being addressed. Certain school culture issues where it's just not a positive place to be
mm.
for teachers and students. School should be fun. School was fun for
Right.
me.
Yeah.
I was always bused to schools outside of my neighborhood, and education is very important to me. And I think that's part of the reason why is because I was bused. I did not ever attend my neighborhood schools. And I think that's because my aunt was a teacher. And so she told my mom and my parents to send me to gifted schools outside of my neighborhood because they didn't exist in my neighborhood.
Mm.
And my grandmother was a teacher in segregated Virginia. So she also inspired me as well.
So you have a history of all this. So you this is in your DNA, right? It's
Yes.
amazing that the kids, we're talking about busing and going. People don't probably even remember that, but it's interesting to say that the kids in urban areas are always going code for the kind of poor areas. We're being bussed out, but no one's being bussed in. I don't remember too many people coming over, this way. It was always going. We had to go that way. That was always fascinating to me. So the thing that I'm seeing now, like for example, with COVID hitting, and I'm starting to hear some of the disparities that are coming out. So about 3 years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, we were all talking about net neutrality, so that there's an open playing field for everybody, and so that internet companies could not throttle
Mhm.
uh, into lower income areas and increase in more affluent areas. And same thing with schools, like maybe in kind of more secondary education with colleges, say like junior colleges were throttled, but more affluent schools got more grace or internet, right? So they have more access. And we're seeing that now, really, because of that law, a lot of um, children who may not have access, or they're in an area that didn't get the high speed, are really at a greater disadvantage now, because they're being throttled in those areas because the companies want to make more money in the more affluent areas. How are you seeing that playing out, or do you see that playing out kind of in longevity with the other things that you're talking about? Is it compounding, or is it kind of just status quo?
No, it's compounding. And um, it's definitely the internet issues, but it's also um, access to working, functioning devices.
Yeah.
So even though I resigned from the teaching profession in 2018, I still keep in touch with many educators. And I also have friends who are parents that have kids in the school districts right now. And so because they are fighting still to get proper functioning iPads, even getting access onto the iPad was a big issue. And then once you're on, you have to get access to Google Drive, or in some schools, Schoology is what it's called. So it's different layers of getting access. So even if you have internet, it's actually getting access to the programs that you need. But schools and school districts in better neighborhoods have IT departments that are the devices were already set up. They were probably already using them.
Right.
So it's not an issue, but it is an issue in other areas.
Wow. Yeah, it's just I think this is going to be such a on down the road. It's going to be such a can be going to be pretty devastating for communities if we don't kind of just jump on this now and try to say we're going to close these gaps. So you leave the profession, and you're now a filmmaker, and um, there is this you're talking about this secondary traumatic stress. On how does it impact teachers? What disturbed you while you were working in schools that you now want to, kind of write about or and showcase?
Yes, I think it's just feeling powerless,
Mm,
helpless even, and it's very unfortunate to not to. It's like you're halted from being in service
mm,
because most people would, tell me, "Oh, you're a great teacher," and they would tell other teachers the same thing. But I didn't feel that way because I knew that I could do more. I was doing my
mm,
best,
mm.
but it wasn't good enough for what the kids deserved and what I could have done with resources and just accountability. Certain things you wouldn't let kids at other schools fight. So
Yeah,
why, or you would break it up or stop it and have not even consequences, but not necessarily suspensions. You
right.
would get to the root of the problem, talk to the child, have counselors available. But these things are dismissed at certain schools, and it's just the norm.
Mm.
And yeah,
Yeah,
go
I
ahead.
think. Well, I'm just remembering some of the old the things, and we're not in a bad neighborhood. I wouldn't say we're in a affluent neighborhood, but we're not in a bad neighborhood. But it was amazing to me that even an instance, my daughter, she was, she's a pretty calm kid. She doesn't really, she's not, left or right. She has she has her opinions, of course, and she'll stick by those. But when she was in school, kind of finding out her identity, there were a couple instances where she was being bullied, right? And then she would go and we tell her, just tell the teacher about it, and see. Well, she would do that, and she would do it over and over again. She did three times, four times, and then the last time, when no one's listening to her or telling this other kid that didn't look like her, to stop, and that's, we don't put your hands on people, we don't do this. She just went froggy on her, right? So
Right.
because she'd been up, no one stepped in, and then they want to come over to us and call us in for a counseling meeting. And I read them the riot act. I said, we've been telling our daughter to go back and talk to the teacher. Teacher, you're right in the room. What did you do to stop this? Nothing. And so I said, well, you're not going to suspend my daughter for anything. No, it's not going to happen. Because you're going to be on the news tonight if you do.
Right.
Because because we're trying to do the right thing, and this person is bullying our daughter for the last 3 weeks, and you've done nothing. And so, of course, she's going to take that matters in her own hand. And so, with any other child, if you push them to that level, is that what you wanted? That was that. So that was us kind of pushing back against the system a little bit. And there were other great things that happened, good things that happened too. But these instances, I think, that happen, and if you're not savvy enough, if you're not able to be in the school and always kind of advocate for your child, not helicopter parent them, but hold people accountable and be working with teachers and the principal and the students and the teachers and all these people, because we're all in it together. Then when things like COVID comes and hits, we have that network together. We have that teamwork that's going on, and we're able to shift a little bit faster. I think that because we're only sending our kids off for daycare, right? We were shocked when they were coming home. We got to teach them, and what kind of report are we getting in the parent teacher conference? So you start on this documentary. I think that's a fascinating documentary. I want you to share a little bit about this documentary that you're working on right now and pitching, because I think there's some parallels here that we're talking in the elementary school side, and now we see things that happen as we go to high school, and then into as we want to get into college, and so there's some disparities that even happen there that even get greater compounded. So would you please share a little bit about the documentary and why you wrote it?
Yes, it's called Robbed: A Mother's Peril, the Kelly Williams Bolar story.
Mm,
And in 2011, Kelly, and a divorced mom, was jailed for enrolling her daughters into her parents' school district after her home was burglarized. And her parents lived
mm,
literally 5 minutes away, but it was a different, same zip code, but different school district. And so it's illegal. That's illegal to use her parents' address. She lived both places, but the law doesn't recognize that. There's cultural bias in the law. Many Black grandparents actually, parent with the parents. They're there, and
right.
the kids are over there a lot. So Kelly had her own room over there. The kids had their own rooms. She paid some bills over there, but it wasn't enough because she didn't live there on paper. And so she had 3 felonies against her. And because of public outrage,
What was the felonies? What were the felonies for each child? What kind of felony?
for grand theft. Yes, she had 2 daughters, but it's basically stealing an education because she wasn't paying into the system with property taxes for that specific district. And so this happens a lot all over the US, but some parents, some parents go under the radar. Some parents don't. Some parents, if they get caught, they can pay someone to use their address. There's a lot of loopholes in the system on who gets charged and who doesn't. But it's just a very unfortunate situation. And when I heard about it in 2011, I just thought that there has to be more to the story. I wanted to hear Kelly's side of the story. It is a complicated story, many layers of injustice, and we wanted to explore those and see what Kelly had to say and what her family had to say, because the media portrayed one side of the story, but there's always 2 sides of the story. And I think it's important for her voice to be heard.
Yeah. So she was incarcerated for that for a pretty long time, if I recall.
Well, because of the public outrage, the felonies were reduced to misdemeanors, luckily. So she ended up serving, instead of 5 years, 9 out of 10 days.
Yeah,
but her father was tried with her, and he was charged on other questionable charges, and he died in prison. But he was initially tried with her for this.
Wow. And so we see, I mean, she's obviously, because like you said, in communities, there's kind of co-parenting going on while parents are out there working. You get your home burglarized, but my kids have been already over in that other place anyway. And that's so kind of so harsh, because we see, others taking advantage of the system where, they are manipulating test scores to get their children into better opportunities, because they take advantage of the system however they can, by money, or they have the affluence to pay for their child to be there. And I see those folks just getting a slap on the wrist. There's not really too much that really happens.
Right. It's a double standard, and those people were doing it intentionally. Kelly was not intentionally trying to cheat the system. She, really believed that she lived both places. And I forgot to mention that she was a teacher's assistant. She still is a teacher's assistant. And so she was working during the day and going to school at night to become a teacher. So that's why she wanted her kids to be safe after school with her grandparents, the kids' grandparents.
That's just crazy. I mean, well, I'm glad you're bringing light to it. And so, kind of, how far are you along in this journey? Kind of before you get to that, or you can answer that. But what are you learning? What did you learn? Through the story and the systems that maybe brought some things to light for you.
Mm-hmm. It's when we started filming in January, and I'm learning a lot. This is my first feature film, and so I'm transitioning careers. That's been a lot in itself, but I didn't have a preconceived notion of how I wanted this documentary to be. I was open-minded and, listening to what Kelly said and her family said, and just getting footage. And so that's what we've been doing. We have another film shoot this weekend. We've had, I think, 5 maybe in Ohio, between Ohio and Los Angeles, and one this weekend. And then we're doing some Zoom interviews next weekend, because the crew doesn't want to fly during the pandemic. So a lot of our production has changed, which is fine. We're going with the flow. But I'm just learning more about the story and learning more about Kelly as a person. Just because I only knew her from the media. 2 years ago, I was on a show that she was a guest on, so I was able to speak with her twice on shows so I knew of her, but last December I reached out to her and talked to her about doing a documentary.
hmm do you think this is pretty widespread? We have a LinkedIn user, a Facebook user actually talking right now and says, I'm left speechless by this, would never have believed that a person could be sent to jail for going to school, especially under those circumstances, right? And I think that's why the public outcry came as well. So is this kind of a one-off, or is this kind of systemic to you? Is that what have you found? Have you found that to be?
Yeah, it's not a one-off. It's not a systemic, but it's definitely an issue. There's a mother now, Tanya McDowell in Connecticut, her sentence is 5 years. She was homeless and she used her daycare provider's address, and she's in prison now. When, to me, it's a mother. If she doesn't have a home, she doesn't have an address, so she's going to use what she has, and that's the daycare provider's address. So to me, it seems like, well, at least she's trying to be a protective mother by, using an address of the daycare provider. So I don't know, but that's the issue with the law, and then the law not looking at the factors that influence the law.
So that instead of what we would say, they're going by the letter of the law and not what it's intended, who it's really supposed to catch, instead of, these extraordinary, I wouldn't even say extraordinary circumstances. People have circumstances, and we don't look at that. Because of that, what are some of in your work, have you looked at solutions? How do we make sure that a person who is homeless and is just trying to take care of their child and put them in a district, how do we get away from the letter of the law of just saying that you're going to jail because your child's in daycare and you're using daycare address to send them to school? That just kind of seems ludicrous to me. And then, I think it's just the disparity between, in this case, people of color that are, more likely to have this happen to them. It's maybe rates of 5 to 7 times more likely. How do we have you looked at solutions in your storyline to how we close those gaps?
No, I haven't looked at solutions. I actually don't have any, other than, like I said, exposing it, because then I feel like people will be held accountable and can make changes with public policy and the law. And that's what I found when I went to law school after graduating. That's why I returned to the classroom, because I felt like I couldn't use the law in the way that I wanted to. It was very slow changing, and I just felt like I could be used in a different way. And many school districts hire private investigators, as was the case with Kelly. And so they, do try to prevent parents from doing this. But there are a lot of issues with that too, like you stated, with who gets caught and who doesn't, because people do this all the time, but only some people get caught. And there are other pretty popular stories of this happening as well to other individuals. So,
well, I'm amazed. What is some of there's what I'm interested in. We've been talking a lot about this week and some other weeks on this whole kind of down chain on this release or the re-identification of an individual, and the individual being in the redefining moment. Are they going to have the courage to actually make the jump to a new thing that they want to do, that they know to do, and they have to actually kind of amputate the fear to embrace this new normal mindset and get to this whole other growth opportunity? But there's so many factors. There's these other people, there's family, society, that are trying to pull us back, and they don't have the courage to jump with us. What was it that caused you to jump from education over to the filmmaking side? How did you? I'm interested in, how did you come to the realization? What pulled you so much to say, I'm tipping this way, instead of just staying kind of in the lane of an educator?
Mm-hmm. I think it was many years of this wearing on me, and I just got to the point where I was not happy. And there was one incident that I wrote about in my book where one of my first grade students attempted to fight me. And it wasn't that I was scared of the little boy. And I started crying actually in front of the class. I've never cried in front of the class before. It was just at that moment I realized, like, there's really nothing I can do. I can't help this child. I'm not getting resources to help him. I knew the story, so I understood where his anger was coming from, but it's misplaced, and you're not gonna hit me. And so he didn't, but it was just the threat. And again, it's a child, and it's not like I was scared, but it just made me think the system is wrong. We're not helping students. This school environment is not conducive for a positive environment that would breed success. Because if it's a successful environment, even if kids are having issues at home, it doesn't come out in the classroom. It doesn't come out at school. They're not going to be fighting if it's a positive environment and their needs are addressed. And I just felt like this is beyond me. I can't, there's nothing I can do. So I was like, I have to leave. I'm done.
Wow. That's so unfortunate, because I know you're such a gift to even those students, right? Where they know that there is at least that level of safety that's going to be in this classroom environment. We're talking a lot also about bringing our atmosphere into our environment. So we were sharing a story. I was sharing a story about going to NASA, and I was watching the astronauts working maneuvers in this huge, just the biggest gigantic pool I've ever seen in my life, where the entire International Space Station is submerged, and the astronauts work in their suits on different projects they have to do up in space. And when they're up in space, they can do the maneuvers because they've worked in underwater. And in both of those environments, underwater or in space, they have to take their atmosphere with them. And what I begin to translate that into is, when we get into a situation where we have a different change of environment, do we take our atmosphere with us? Do we bring our oxygen into the room, or is it being sucked away from us? And so, I think a lot of people found out when we first had COVID, for sure, that they couldn't breathe in that situation. We definitely found out that with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery, that we couldn't breathe because the knee was on our neck. And then the neck of a whole bunch of the whole, racial reckoning that was going on. And then in the presidential election, we found out we couldn't breathe. We can't have a conversation because our oxygen is gone. And what happens when our oxygen is gone, right? We began, if you're going under and you're drowning, you will reach for anything to try to pull yourself back up. There could be a pencil there and you're going to reach for it. Same thing if you're, falling. So we reach out for anything that we can just grab, and we don't even know what we're grabbing. So in that, if you're hearing that, where are some moments where you think that we have lost the oxygen in the environment?
It sounds, I don't want to be negative, but and like I said, even with well-meaning administrators and teachers, it's a system where it's like certain schools, there's just no accountability. And it has a facade of being accountable, but in reality, it's not. And so to address your question, well, I don't know. I guess you are. Yeah, I definitely think that teachers and some administrators feel that the oxygen is being sucked away from them because they don't have the tools. Like even if they want to help, they can't. And so, it's just a very stifling feeling.
That's a hard spot. I mean, when we feel that we can't show up as our full authentic self, and that we have all these other things that are going on in our life, and we don't have any input into like this system, as you're saying. We're talking with Stacie McClam right now. If you're enjoying this conversation and you've got an insight that you just heard, we want you to put it in the chat box. We want you to push her out there. If you're on LinkedIn, she's at Stacie McClam. So put her name in there, shout her out. tell her that you're enjoying this, and we can't wait to see the documentary that's about to come out, because it's going to be all over the place. It's going to be blowing up. You're going to blow up, girl. Because we want to see it out there. So please put her in the chat box right there. I'd love to see, what are you thinking about right now. If you have a question for Stacie, we're going to move on, but I want to see if you have a question. I want to see if you put in the chat box, and we'll get your question on there. So what is next? What's next for you? What do you think is what's on your, like, after the documentary, or are you just pitching? What's going on?
After the documentary, I intend to do multiple narrative feature films. So I'm not sure if I'll do any more documentaries, but definitely many education related narratives where we are dramatizing these real issues so that people can see. Again, hopefully with the intention that once people see it, just like with, unfortunately, the George Floyd incident, when people see it, you're like, this is morally wrong. Something's not right with this. We need to change. Right. That's the intention, that if people need to actually see it.
That's powerful. And it works in a lot of different areas. I was long jumping. I was an All-American, and I also All-American. I was one of my All-American honors was in long jump. And after I had my amputation, I'd never seen an individual run and jump on an artificial leg until I got to Atlanta, Georgia, and this guy on the long jump runway. He's running down the long jump runway, leg over leg on an artificial leg. I'm like, I'm mesmerized by this. And he hits the takeoff board, leaps up in the air, apex of his flight. His artificial leg flies off. Right, he hits the sand here. Artificial leg lands 3 feet in front of him. Whole crowd does Macaulay Culkin style, Home Alone. And then that guy turns back to the official and says, "Hey, so we're going to measure my jump from here where artificial leg ended up there." And he flipped it. And I said, wow, that is a great attitude to have. And it was when I saw him do it, my mind already had snapped. It already switched, because I knew at this point in time, when I was swimming in the 1996 Paralympic Games, I knew 4 years from now I was going to be at the Paralympic Games running on somebody's track. I just knew it. And I haven't even taken my first step yet. So I think with your documentaries, is that what you are hoping to do, to get the people to see and then act? And when they act, what do you hope that their action will be?
Yes, I definitely want people to see. Your story is quite powerful, and I hope that people will change policy, just like you mentioned at the beginning of the show with disability rights and all of these things that need to be addressed. If there has to be, in order for public policy and laws to change, people have to be the ones to kind of force it. It's difficult to just change on its own. So, historically, we can see there had to be push to get things changed. And so that's the goal. I hope that school districts and state boards of education, secretaries of state, secretaries of education will look at this and self-reflect and look at their organizations and just say, we're done with doing things the way that they used to operate in. It doesn't work. The status quo is not working for all students. The COVID-19 pandemic has really exposed that in many ways, especially in education.
Well, I think all of us would agree. Stacie McClam for Congress. Okay, so you got that.
No.
Stacie McClam, let's go. I vote. I'm gonna give me your. You're gonna send me a text message every 3 minutes saying, "Well, we're a little bit low on funds right now. We need to raise some more money." So this is Lynn here from Charlotte. She's saying, "I cannot wait for your documentary. Can you please remind us when it will be published and what is the title? What the title is?" So thank you for bringing this attention to this very important topics. Lynn's a phenomenal young lady, and so she's doing great work out there in Ohio. I think you're in Ohio too, aren't you?
No, I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, you're in LA. Okay, yeah, a little ways from Ohio. Ohio West.
Yes, Ohio West.
So she's out there. Well, I think she's in Charlotte, North Carolina. So, can you answer her questions? You know, what's the title of the documentary? When might it be published out there?
Yes, thanks so much, Lynn, for your interest. It's called Robbed, um, a Mother's Peril, the Kelly Williams Bolar story. And you can find out more information at our website at www.robbed, ROBBED, the doc.com. And it's on all social media platforms. You can sign up for our newsletter there to get exclusive behind the scenes pictures and photos. And we plan to apply to film festivals next year, and then hopefully release have a festival run in 2022 and hopefully release in 2023, maybe sooner. We'll see. But we're really excited. It's going to be an interesting story filled with conflict and interviews and reenactments of an actor portraying her father. We've already shot those. And it's just a really interesting story that I think can touch so many people in different areas, whether you're in education or not.
So in other words, Stacie McClam is about to blow up, as Martin Lawrence would say.
John, no. You're funny. You are so funny.
I want to thank you so much for being on today and, saying yes at the last minute and coming on and just sharing this incredible gift that you have that you're about to give to the world. And, what is it, if I want you to be able to share, you just did, I know a little bit, but I want you to say it again. I think I'll put it in there, robbedthedoc.com.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Yep, so that's in there. And all your social medias is at Stacie McClam. I think that's right.
Yes. And
then you mentioned a book too. So what's the book entitled?
It's entitled, what is my book called? School Dismissed, Walking Away from Teaching. You can find it on Amazon or on my website, which is my personal website is schooldismissed.com. And yeah, we hope to have a crowdfunding campaign starting in January. So you can check us out, follow us on social media, sign up for the newsletter.
That's awesome. I know a great bank that love to support that, right, Lynn? And so I'm going to put her out there on blast. She's gonna be a killer. What are you doing, John? I just want to say thank you. If you've been enjoying this conversation, please once again put Stacie's name in there. If you were watching on LinkedIn, at Stacie McClam. If you've been watching on YouTube or Facebook, please do the same thing at Stacie McClam, because that's all their social media handles. What's the insight you took away today? What's the insight that you took away? One of mine really has to deal with, I've been drilling down into this people making the jump and people who won't make the jump, and what's the difference between the two. So when we're pushed to our limit or beyond our limit, we're over the edge and we just go ahead and make the jump because we either feel hopeless or we have this hope that's on the other side that we can do better from another vantage point, another position. I think, Stacie, every time I have left a position, I've always I won't use the word elevated, but I've been in another position where I could actually help those that I used to be with. And as somebody else would help me, right? So it becomes this kind of lift as we climb mentality. And I'm always looking for those type of those relationships. So thank you so much for being on. I hope I get a chance to see you in a few minutes, about 45 minutes, if you're going to be on with the incredible Dr. Avis.
Yes.
Yeah. So we got to shout out that if you don't know Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver, you got to follow this young lady. She's a rock star, and she's going to have this masterclass next week. Hope that you all can I'll put her out there on some of my socials so you all can check her out. She was on last week though. It was a really great interview. So we have two great interviews now. So we have Stacie, we have Dr. DeWeaver, and so thank you for being with us. I really appreciate it. And we're going to go out and wrap up the show.
Thank you so much, John, for having me today. I just appreciate this platform and hurdlers of adversity. That is so impactful. It's a very important topic to talk about. People have life transitions all the time and have to pivot for whatever reason. And so this is necessary. Keep up the good work. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Oh, you do my heart so good. As I'm about to fall out my chair here.
It's true.
I do appreciate that. So thanks. And so everybody, as I want you to give the snaps up to them. Let's see. Was there some? Okay, sign up for the newsletter. What's okay? I got to put this up here. Boom. So that's
Yep.
that. I think that's Lynn putting that in there. So the newsletter, sign up, newsletter,
Oh,
learn more
thanks,
about.
Lynn.
There you go. See, ball it out,
Appreciate
ball it
you.
out. Yeah. So thanks for putting that in there, Lynn. I really do. So thanks, Stacie. And we're going to wrap the show right now. Everybody, I really appreciate you adjusting and shifting time. I know it's probably dinner time and things. We had one of our guests that had a little family emergency, and so I'm glad that Stacie was able to come on and kind of pitch hit for us. Here's what's going on. The next week, I am totally blacking out on social media except for the show, because I've already lined up our guest. Our guest is Joel Block. If you're looking at investments, if you're looking at those, this guy he's like the godfather, the guru of all these investments. But next week I will, 7th through the 13th, I'm going to social media blackout. I'm going to get out of town, out of Dodge, and try to get I'm going to get my second book written, which is the longer one, the documentary. I got documentary in my mind. I'm talking to Stacie. My autobiography. And if you have a question, so you've known me, you've been watching these. I think we've been doing them since September, and you have a question on, I would love to see this in that book, John. Just write it to me. Write it to me on DM me. Most of you have my DM. And join our Facebook group at amputatefear.com, which is facebook.com/groups with an S/amputatefear. Go in there and we'll have a dialogue. If there's something like, oh yeah, I would love to know about this in your book. Yeah, I'll consider putting it in it for sure. Absolutely. Because I want to work for you all and see what it is that you need, because we all can elevate together. So that's my intention. The print copy, we're still trying to get that out on the 10 Power Stories to Impact Any Leader, Journal Your Way to Leadership Success. We have some product. Thanks to Lynn. Lynn says she liked my ball cap I had on the other day. So she said, yeah, I want to get one of them things, man. So we did our first product thing. It's pretty hot. It's pretty good. So thank you, Lynn, for kind of encouraging me with that. And it's really looking pretty sharp. It's snazzy. But I'm not going to say what it is, because I'm going to show it to you once it comes in. I have a lot of stuff's coming up. Up next, we can just say we already talked about joining the Facebook group, social media blackout. We talked about that. So let's see what else we got here. That's it. Disability month, or not month, this day, International Disability Day. I'm going to put out a video later on tonight. It was a real good one. If you remember, there was a video that went out by the State Department. It was I did a podcast on 22.33 or FM 2233. That's for our State Department last year, and they took it and they made an animation of it. It is off the charts great. So it's on my YouTube channel. I'll try to put it to the front. You can go see it there, but it's a really well done programs I work with the State Department on. So one is called the GSMP, the Global Sport Mentoring Program. So the United States has individuals with disabilities will come into the United States, learn how to operate a program, and then go back to their locations. And one individual went back and built out this whole Paralympic sports complex that we worked on back here in the United States. And then all people with disabilities. So he's an amputee, I'm an amputee, and then the architect she's a wheelchair user. So all three in the country of Kazakhstan were able to put this concept into practice. What? It was great. And so they actually captured that in the documentary. It was fantastic. All right. So remember, each one of you, as you get ready to go into December, that you are the inspirations. Inspirations are the catalyst to motivation. Motivation in turn causes actions, and actions lead us to transformational results. The mantra, our charge always is go forth and inspire your world. Why? Because go, that's our command. Forth, that's our direction. Inspire, This is our vocation. Your, only we can do it. It's our DNA that can only do it. And then world, it's our sphere of influence. So go forth, inspire your world, everybody. We'll see you back here next week with the amazing Joe Block on Hurdlers of Adversity, Inspirers and Maximizers of Pivotal Moments. Thank you all. God bless. And we'll see you next